Hi creative friends, Denise from Salvaged Inspirations, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a simple way to add some herringbone wood detailing to your painted furniture. So just let me get set up and I'll be right back. Let's start. Here's the fun part. So as I mentioned, today I'm sharing an easy way to dupe a popular herringbone detail trend on your furniture without the work or cost of using real wood. And I can't wait to share how these $12.99 bedstands all came together. So I picked them up at my local restore. It was $12.99 for a set of these bedstands, which is fabulous. I mean, you can't get better than that. They were structurally sound, although they look dark and dated, and there was a few scratches and things that needed fixing up cosmetically, but overall these were in great shape. When I saw these nightstands, I was originally thinking that they would look amazing sanded down to bare wood and then whitewashed out. But these nightstands kind of fought me every step of the way. This project took me about 3 times as long as I originally thought it would, but it all came together so beautifully. And sometimes a change in design plan isn't a bad thing. So just wait until you see them, how they all turned out. But I'm also going to be sharing some of the challenges I ran into with this makeover. So if you've ever been frustrated or felt like giving up on a project, just want you to know you are not alone. It happens. Even after years and years of painting furniture, things don't always go smoothly, and these nightstands are a perfect example. I started by giving these nightstands a really good cleaning with white lightning, and I used a paint scraper tool to scrape off the crud on the top and also on the insides of the drawers. And the crud on the top that you're seeing is stripper that I actually applied. It's not that I bought them this way, because as I mentioned, when I brought them home, I thought I was going to do a raw wood finish on them. I added some citrus strip onto the top just to see what I was going to be working with underneath. So I forgot about the citrus strip sitting on there, and it was days. It sat on there for days, and then it had dried and turned into a mess, which took some extra time to clean. Once they were all cleaned up and dry, I started the sanding process. I use these soft sponge cushion sanding sponges that I bought off Amazon for, I believe it was around between $12 and $15 for a set of 2. Now, mine are looking pretty rough because they're probably over 6 months old, but they still work perfectly. And all I do is I attach these sanding sponges onto my orbital sander, and they help me sand around the contoured edges and around the lips of the furniture and the legs, anything that has some contour or roundness to it. They work really, really well. So you attach the sanding pad, then you attach your sandpaper on top of that, and you just go ahead and sand, and they provide that little bit of cushiony give so you can sand around contours perfectly. And you know what? For the $15 or $7 a pad, it's such a great alternative to some of those very costly sanders that you can purchase out there. So if you're on a budget or just starting out, this is a great alternative to some of the more expensive sanding systems out there. I will leave a link to these sanding sponges in the description box down below. After I finished sanding, I wasn't crazy about what I saw. The side panels weren't matching the legs and the base. The two wood tones were totally different. And I also sanded right through the veneer on the top of one of the night tables, which is so frustrating. As you can see, it's sanded through the veneer right here, and that does not make for a good looking top. So because of my oops and because of what I was seeing underneath this dark finish, I changed my design plan altogether. I decided I was going to paint the base and the legs and also the tops and the sides, and the drawers I was going to use a herringbone transfer on. But another challenge I ran into was because I had sanded the entire top and sanded right through the veneer on one of these nightstands, I had the wood grain, like the grooves in the wood grain on the veneer on the top. So I had one nightstand with a very smooth finish and the other one that had the wood grain texture into it. So to fix this and create a perfectly smooth top so they both matched, I used Dixie Belle mud to skim the entire top of the bedstand. And all I did was take a putty knife and apply a thin layer of mud, or any sort of wood fill will work for this. You apply a thin layer onto the entire top. To speed up the dry time, I used my heat gun. Then I sanded it down perfectly smooth, and then I re-primed the top with BIN shellac base primer, and that is to block any of the bleed through that will come through. So if you ever have a piece of furniture that has that wood grain and you want it smoothed out, you take these exact 4 steps and that'll smooth everything out for you. And you just have to be sure to prime after you fill in the grooves with the mud or the wood fill that you're using. So after all the skimming was sanded, smooth, and dry, I went ahead and added 2 coats of BIN shellac base primer to cover all the bleed through, sanding between each coat. Then I used my 2-inch mini brush and I applied 2 coats of this beautiful white Endless Shore silk paint. It's an off-white and it has some warmth to it. So it's a beautiful, beautiful neutral color. Unfortunately, another challenge I ran into was after all this dried, I still had some bleed through peeking through. So I gave it another light sanding and applied a 3rd coat of Endless Shore silk paint. And the silk paint is an all-in-one. It does have a primer in it, and it also has a built-in top coat. So now for the fun part. After all the sanding, priming, and painting was done, I was super excited to create a faux herringbone wood design on the drawers using this transfer. This is from Bells and Whistles, which is from Dixie Belle, and the transfer is called Rustic Herringbone. Now, I've used many transfers and many brands of transfers over the years redoing my furniture. And here's another one of my challenges. I had some issues with this one. I ran into some hiccups that took a significant amount of time to fix. This transfer was stored in a box on my basement floor. And we've had some extremely cold weather here in the Toronto area, and my studio floor, aka my basement, is cold. So while I was rubbing this transfer onto the drawers, unfortunately, I had some cracking issues. I would rub it on and little tiny bits would tear. And then when I removed the plastic top, in some instances, it took up a hunk of the design. So to fix this, I had to keep matching designs from the leftover sheet and rub it on. So it was kind of like a patch job that I was doing here. But I have to admit, it was a little frustrating because I've never had any issues with any of the Bells and Whistles transfers, or any brand for that matter. Usually they go on quite smoothly. And I have a full tutorial on how to rub on transfers, and I will add that in the card above, and I'll also add it in the description down below. So once I was happy with the way this herringbone transfer looked on the drawers, to tie these bedstand tables all together, I made a paint wash and I added, it was a 50-50. So I added half Endless Shore. I'm guessing it was about a quarter of a cup, probably not even. And then a quarter of a cup of water to create this paint wash. And I applied 3 coats right onto the rustic herringbone transfer. Another little challenge, you can see that it repels and beads up on the first layer of paint wash. So some patience and time is required when you're adding a wash onto a transfer. I used my heat gun to dry it in between coats, and I added 3 coats, a total of 3 coats of paint wash, waiting for each coat to dry in between. I have to admit, I loved the way this was looking because this herringbone wood was, when it was paint washed, it's actually looking very authentic, tying into these nightstands beautifully. And a paint wash is really easy to do and much more cost effective than using a stain. I did the exact same technique for the 2 raw wood side panels on these nightstands, and the wood only took 1 coat of paint wash since it absorbs really nicely. So you just add the paint wash on, and any excess I was wiping off with a blue shop towel. For the hardware, I found these old wood knobs in my inventory, and to match them up, I gave them a paint wash and then a few coats of rub-on poly for protection. And they tie in with this nightstand theme really, really well. And before I share the finished look, the before and after, I'm often asked how much paint I used on a project. So for these 2 nightstands, I just wanted to share that I used half of this 16-ounce container. And now for the reveal. Here's the before. And here's the after. I just love the way this all came together. The wash really tied in the herringbone design, and the raw wood panels on the side just give that added extra detail. I hope these nightstands inspire you and give you some new ideas for your projects. I also hope it's really encouraged you to hang in there if a project is giving you a hard time. It does happen to all of us, and if you hang in there, believe me, it'll be well worth it. So I'd love to hear what you think of these herringbone nightstands in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. I also post every Wednesday quick tips that are usually between 1 and 3 minutes. So if you hit that notification bell, you'll get notified on those as well. You can also find me on all my socials and over at salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 500 furniture painting tutorials teaching you how to make your furniture beautiful. Until next time, I hope you have a beautiful day and a fabulous week. Bye, guys.